2025 is the Chinese Year of the Snake, according to the Chinese calendar. Apparently, it's a year that's all about wisdom, transformation, and resourcefulness, and you needed all three to navigate the investment markets for the year gone by. It was a year that started with some optimism, tinged with some concerns and geopolitical tensions, and we saw the inauguration of US President Trump in January of that year. And what came next was fairly soon afterwards, that seminal moment in April when we saw Liberation Day, the announcement in the Rose Garden of the countless tariff and new trade tensions that emerged on the back of them as well. We saw action being brought against Europe and against countries in Asia, and even the sparsely populated islands of Heard and McDonald Islands that are the home to nothing but penguins. The market response was instant. It really disliked the nervousness and the challenges to global trade that we saw on the back of that. They sold off very, very sharply at that time. And at one point, markets were down about 19% from record highs that had been achieved during February. We didn't see the same follow through on the back of the announcements of tariffs. And this was when we saw the emergence of a new term known as the taco trade, which was Trump will always chicken out. We did see Europe and a number of other countries negotiating very strongly with the United States, leading to a calming in tensions about the likely outcomes of trade wars as the summer did progress. One of the areas that we talked a lot about in 2024 was inflation and interest rates. We saw during 2025 that inflation came significantly under control in all of the major developed markets. And on the back of that, we saw interest rates being cut. If you were to look at the period up to the middle of the summer, the US in a 12-month period up to then had cut interest rates 8 times. The United States over 2025 cut interest rates on 3 occasions during the year, each by about 0.25%. There's no doubt the US president still wasn't happy with the number of interest rate cuts. He was putting significant pressure on the chair of the US Federal Reserve, Jay Powell, that's their central bank, to cut interest rates by even more. We saw, on the other hand, in Japan, as the economy started to grow by a little bit more and inflation started to emerge, that interest rates started to increase. A big theme from 2024 that continued into 25 was artificial intelligence, or AI. Anything associated with it seemed to do extremely well during the year. There were some wobbles along the way when new technology from China under the name DeepSeek caused Nvidia, previously a darling of the markets, to sell off, but it did recover very, very strongly as the year progressed. The best performer of the Magnificent Seven, which are the major technology companies in the world, was Alphabet, better known as Google. But technology wasn't the only strong performer in markets during the year. We also saw the really strong performance from the aerospace and defense sectors, from telecom, biotechnology as well. So we saw a real rotation during 2025. There was another phrase that we saw in 24 that came in a little bit into 25, which was US exceptionalism, that everything that was being done in America was amazing and bigger than everybody else. Not so much in the investment world in 2025. We saw a better performance from stock markets in China, many European markets, UK, and in Japanese shares. So certainly that diversified message that we talk about so often really came to the fore once again. And one that people may not consider as much about the investment world is to do with currency. So we saw in the early part of the year a sharp sell-off in the dollar, certainly unnerved by trade wars, but also huge government spending plans under Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. We also saw widening trade deficits between the United States and many of its bigger trading partners as well. Why is this so important? When we translate the value of our US assets back into euro, a weaker dollar will mean that the value of those assets will be significantly less. So certainly it was a big issue for investors during the year. And the other one that really grabbed our attention was the yellow shiny stuff. Metals had a phenomenal year. You know, there's a phrase that all that glitters isn't gold. We also saw incredible performance in copper, silver, and platinum as well. So why were all of these metals doing so well? Well, we saw one was concerns about the widening US trade deficit. Dollar debasement or lack of confidence in the dollar was an issue as well, but also the industrial use for things like silver and platinum and copper as well. We often find when there's a bit of geopolitical tension out there, that can sometimes drive more demand for gold as well. The last area we're going to look at is about investing in bonds. It's an important part of the investment mix. Modest returns, particularly for those that were invested in corporate bonds, were a little bit better, but overall bonds are an important part to give a bit of ballast to your overall investment portfolio. delivered reasonable returns, nothing like as strong as what you saw from the stock markets, but nevertheless an important part of a well-diversified portfolio during the year. So overall, very, very decent return for investors throughout 2025. And we are, I believe, set fair for a positive 2026. The world economies are growing quite well. Companies are remaining quite profitable. And it is the year of the fire horse in the Chinese zodiac. So that's all about energy, independence and forward motion, with the horse representing boldness and a desire for freedom. So hopefully we'll see large, healthy returns for our investors in the year ahead.